So today's session is actually something called as data types and variables. First, now before going to the programming, first let's understand what is this data type and what are variables, and then we'll go and work on examples. Okay, fine. First of all, let's understand what is this data type. For any data related things, there will be of different datas. The data can be classified into different types. That is called as data types. Means if you take a number, that itself is a different data type. When I say a text, that itself is a different data type. When I say a chart or application or say workbook, they're all of different data types. So everything is data in computer. But what will happen is when I'm actually working on a program, these has to be classified so that it will be more useful, or say I can make the memory usage in a proper way. Otherwise, what will happen? Let's take one simple example. I have three cans, say 1 liter, 5 liter, and 10 liter. Suppose if you want to fetch a water of half a liter, I'll use 1 liter, not go to 10 liters. The reason is the 10-liter can is too big for just carrying your half a liter water. Now let's say I want to carry 3 liters, then I'll think about the next option. That is, I have this 5-liter can. Suppose if you want to have 6 liters, then I cannot go for 5-liter can because it will overflow, then I'll go to 10-liter can. So depending on the volume, I'll actually think about what kind of container I need. Similarly, these data types are actually classified so that the memory management can be used in a proper way. Say for example, I'm using a number which is just 100 and I'm trying to save it in one memory space. So when I'm actually using a big space, then I'm actually wasting the extra space what I'm actually using the memory. So to avoid this, what will happen is we have to classify the data based on their volume, or say based on their values. So this classification of data is called as data types. Now, when I say classification of data types, there are different type of data. That is, let's make it very simple like this. Say text, numbers, and date, and then objects. Hello? 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 People, can you hear me? Hello?
Sir, your voice is lost.
I think for few seconds it got lost. Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Am I audible? Hello?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Suddenly it got, there was some problem. Okay. Let me repeat again what I was actually speaking. So I was actually talking about the data types. Data type means classifying your data. That is, I was talking about classifying, that is, categorizing the data into different types. So the data can be classified into different types based on the type of data. Let's say I was talking about text, I was talking about number, or it can be date, or it can be true or false, or it can be some objects. So depending on the kind of data what I'm actually storing in the memory, it is classified. Now when I say text itself is something called as string in our VBA language. For numbers, we call it in a different names depending on the size. Let's go and see in detail. Say here, when I say a number, we call it as byte when I have a value from 0 to 255. I'll call it as integer when I say it is from minus 32,768 to 32,767. I'll say long, that is from this number to this number. It's a very big number. I'll be sharing this presentation with you so you can go through this. So these three, what you see, this is for the whole numbers. That is for the numbers. That means, let me just tell you in more detail. Say for example, I am trying to save a person's age. So age can be what, maximum 100, let's say 125. that will not exceed this 255. Then what I'll do, I'll think about classifying that data type as byte. Suppose I'm actually thinking about the column numbers. The column maximum number of column numbers is 16,384. That means it will not exceed this 32,767. So then I can assign this integer. Next, let's say I'm using this sales, or say some rupees or some amount that might go in a very big number. Then I'll go to this long. Next is, this is for the whole numbers, what I discussed, byte, integer or long. What if I have decimal numbers? Then I can think about single or double. These are the two classification of data types which will help me in storing the value in decimals. Hello?
You're not audible.
Your voice was unmuted for some time.
Hello? Can you hear me now? I think there is some problem. I don't know. Suddenly it is getting.
Yes, Adi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, just for a few minutes you were off.
Yeah. So again, let me repeat. So I was talking about byte, integer, long, which are actually for whole numbers. Single and double are for, say, decimal numbers. Okay, fine. Next, we have this currency and decimal. This currency is actually used for the storing of your currency. That is, you say rupees or any other currencies globally that I can use it. Next, say I have few more things. That is, I have this length of boolean which is used for true or false. Then date, I have this for storing the date. Then I have this objects which I'll be using for storing workbook or say worksheet or columns or rows or range or whatever, which are actually objects. But coming to this string, I was talking about string. String is nothing but the characters, that is the text. This can be for say alphanumeric, that is for text as well as numbers combination. Okay, these are actually the classification of data types. I'll show you how to work on these things later once we start the practical class. But try to understand, when I say data type, that means I'm classifying the data into different types. That is, to numbers, if I say numbers, then I can use it as byte, integer, long, or if it is decimal numbers, then I can use it double or single. Then next, if I come to this text, I'll be using this string. Then if you want to use true or false or say some conditions, then I'll use this boolean. If you want to use date, then I can use this date data type. Or if I'm using this objects, then I can use this object data type. But suppose if you're not aware of what kind of data type I have to assign, or say what kind of data I have to classify, then I can go for variant. I'll show you how this variant works. Okay, this variant you're using only when you're not aware of what kind of data type I'm actually writing a program on that, or I'm trying to store in the memory. Okay, fine. Next, I was talking about how to decide the data types. See here, when I say age of a person, it will not exceed say 100, or say let's say 125. Then I'll be thinking of this. The next, say column numbers. I told you the column numbers is 16,384, which will not exceed. Then I can think about going for integers. Then say row numbers, that is 10,48,576. Then if you are working on such kind of data, then I have to think about long. Then I was talking about string, that is a person name or a city or a product code, employee ID. So these kind of things I can use string. If I say true or false, then I can go for boolean. I was talking about the decimal numbers. Wherever you see that there are some decimal numbers, then I can go for this single or double. Okay, anyways, date, date of birth, or say date of joining, or anywhere you're actually trying to store your date function, then I can use this date data type. Then I also spoke about the data types, that is object data types. That is when you're working on workbook or charts or range or pivot table, anything that is object, then I can use this object data type. Then I told you, if you're not sure about the data type, then you can go for variant. Okay, fine. Next, what are variables? After this, I'll show you practically how they actually look. Okay, what are variables? Variables are nothing but, say I was talking about the data type. That means I'm storing some data in the memory, but to store that memory, the data in that memory, I should recognize that part where I'm saving. So for that, I'll be giving a name. Say for example, I have a land, I construct a house, but I need to have an address for that particular house so that people can reach to my house where I've constructed. So for that, I'll give the address to people who are actually reaching my place. Similarly, when I'm storing a data in the memory, I should give one address for that or some name for that particular location, which we actually call it as address, and that name for that address we call it as variable. So let me make it still more simpler. Variable is nothing but a name given to the particular memory space where I'm storing the data. Why it is called as variable? It is actually called as variable because of the data what we have stored in that memory location can be keep varying. That means it will be keep changing. So for that reason, what we'll do is we'll call it as variables. Variable is nothing but the name, the address name of the location where I'm storing the data. That's all. See, all the variable values are stored in memory. This I was talking. Then this is name is given to identify the values. So all this I just discussed. You can just go through this once you get this presentation. Okay. Now, naming this variable, I have to give the address name, and there is a rule for that. Like what I have this program name. Similarly, I have the naming principles for variables as well. So it should not exceed 255 characters. No space allowed. No special characters allowed. Must not begin with number. No period. That is no dot. No reserved words like dim or function or sub or permitted. Right. So these are some of the rules. Now what I'll do is I'll go to Excel sheet and then we'll understand why these data types are very useful and how to use these variables. Okay, fine. Let me open one Excel sheet. It's a new Excel sheet which I've opened. I will save this. Let me save it. So I think we have a folder. Okay, anyways, I'll just save it here. I'll say VBA class 3, and here I'll save it as Excel macro enabled online session test 2. I'll say save. Right? Okay. Now let's go here. We'll try to write one simple program like what we did in our previous session. Let's say in D5 I have 100 and here I have 200. Okay. Say Alt F11. I'll try to write a program to add these two numbers and get the value here in D7. Let me rename this data type. Then I'll select this, copy this. I'm just trying to rename it. So let me create one module and we'll name this as well. Say mod underscore data type. Right? Okay. Now we'll write a simple macro with the knowledge what we have till now, that is D5 plus D6. Let me go back. I'll say sub add to number. Directly I'll add numbers here. I'll say WKS data type dot range of D7 dot value equals, I'll say D5 plus D6. Right. Now I'm just trying to add two numbers, that is D5 and D6, which will be stored in D7. Let me execute this. I'll go and I'll click here. If you go and check, I got the result. Fine. This is very simple program. Next, I want to extend this. I want to do some more calculation. Let's say I'll do one more calculation, that is d5 divided by d7. Then I'll say equals this divided by this. So this I did manually, that is by using formulas. So what if I want to do it through code? Let's go back. I'll write a program to do these two calculations. Let me copy this. Instead of again typing it, I'll just copy and I'll slightly modify it. I'll say f5 equals d5 divided by d7. Let's say d7. Then same thing I'll copy and I'll paste it here and I'll make it f6 equals d6 divided by d7. Let me reduce this. I think now you can see. See, it says f6 equals d6 plus d7. Now if I run this, I'm getting the result. Say, let's say divide. See, I'm getting the result here. But just go back and let's see the program again. We'll understand. Here it says d7 equals d5 plus d6. Fine. What it will do in this line, it will go to Excel sheet, fetch this d5 dot value, and then again it will go to Excel sheet, fetch d6 dot value, and it will add, and it will give me the result in d7. Next line it will go, what it will do is, it will go and it will check d5 dot value, again it will check d7 dot value, it will divide and put me the results in f5. But if you see this d5 here and again d5 here, to fetch the value of d5, it is going twice to Excel sheet. Now again, if you see here, it is going to Excel sheet to fetch this d6 value twice. Then for d7 value also twice. So what will happen is, the time consuming for fetching the data, it's becoming more. The reason is, to fetch the same value, it is going to Excel sheet multiple times. See, this d5, again to fetch d5, again it is going to Excel sheet. So multiple times it is going to Excel, fetching the value, coming back, going to Excel, fetching the value and coming back. So to avoid this, what we'll do is, we'll use the concept of this data types and variables. The same program, I'll make it very simple and I'll show you how this can be converted in the process of data type and variables. Let's go here. We'll write the same program, but by using data types and variables. So sub, I'll say add to number, but I'll say data type. Fine. Now what you have to do is, first thing is, we should declare variable. Declaring variable means you're trying to create space in the memory. When I'm creating a space, that means I have some space to store the data. So if you want to store something, say for example, I was talking about the 3 can examples. If you want to store water somewhere, I need to have a can. If I don't have can, I cannot store anything. So similarly, now what I'm trying to do in the memory space, memory is nothing but the RAM, what you have in your system. In the memory space, I'm trying to allocate some space. I'm trying to allocate some space. For that, we call it as declaration. That means I'm declaring a space. So how to declare this? I cannot directly go and say, okay, give some space like this. There is a process for that. So what is that process? We have to use something called as dim. The keyword dim means dimension, or we can also call it as declare in memory. That means I'm trying to declare some space in the memory. So dim, I'll give space. Then next, I told you for every space there should be a name, that is the address, that is called as variable. Now what I'll do, I will give a name called as num1. When I say num1, that means this is the name for the space what I'm creating. Now this variable, I need to give what kind of data type I'm actually specifying, because we discussed about the size, the volume of each data type. Now if I say as, now let's think that my data is not exceeding 255. That means it is not going beyond 255. Then I can use byte. I'll say byte. Now if you see this statement, dim is nothing but it's a declaration keyword, say declare in module, or we can also call it as dimension. Num1 is the variable as what kind of data type I'm actually trying to assign. Now let me go here. Let's take one example. How can I use this? I'll say num1 equals. Now I need to put the data in the memory where I've created. This statement will help me. This statement will help me in creating the space, which is called as declaration statement. Declaration statement. Then next, I'm trying to save the value or put some value in this declaration, the place where I've declared. Say num1, I'll say 100. I'm just trying to hard code it. Say 100. Now, if you go and execute this program, a space is created here as num1, and in num1, I'm trying to assign value 100. Let's go here. I'll say message box. You can recall our the previous session where we use this message box to display the values. I'll say num1. Now in this case, see, num1 is 100. I'm trying to message saying that display the value what is there inside num1. Now let me execute this. I'll say fi. Can you see this? It says 100. Now let me go and change this to 500 and say fi. Sorry, this is byte. That's why it's not taking. So I'll say 200 and then I'll say fi. See, it is displaying. Now let me go here. I will make this as 20. Now I'll say message box num1. See, here I'm assigning some value as 200. Then here I'm trying to display that by using message box. And next I'm using num1 equals 20. I'm trying to replace the values. Now what will happen is this value 200 will be replaced by 20 as soon as it comes to this line. That is the reason we call it as variable. I was telling you the values can vary as and when I assign the values. In this case it is 200 because I was assigned 200. Then I'm trying to display the message whatever the values are there, and then I'll say num1 equals 20. So what will happen is when I say 20, this 200 will be replaced in this code. Now if I display this message, I'll get 20. Let's say if I see first position it is 200, and next position it is 20. Fine. Now somewhere in the middle I'll say num1 equals say 150. So if you see this, first it will say 200 and it will display the message. Next it will say 20, but I am not displaying the message immediately. I'm trying to replace. So what will happen when I'm trying to display the message? The latest value what is there in that particular space, only that will be displayed. See, fi, in the beginning it is 200. I'm trying to display a message. Now when I say okay, it will not display 20 because immediately after 20 I'm using 150. See, it says 150. Say okay. So this is how actually we are trying to save or say put the data in the memory. That is, I have to declare a statement so that there is a space created. I will assign the value to the space. We call it as assignment statement. Let me save this. Assignment statement. This is the output from the assignment statement. Okay, so this is how actually it works. So let me rename this as data type code. I'll keep this code as is so that you can understand this. Now what I'll do, we'll write that program to add numbers. Say sub add to number by using data type. Now we'll do this program. Let me take this program here only so that it will be easy for you to understand. Now what we'll do, first we'll try to understand what are the variables to be created. See here I'm using three different values, that is D5, D6 and D7. D5, D6 and D7 are the three values which I'm using. So what I'll do is I will create three different variables. How to do that? Let's go here. Say dim. That's the first keyword what I should use. I'll say num1 as byte. Next, I'll create one more. Dim num2 as byte. Next, I'll say this D7. So here I'll say dim total as byte. So I actually declared three variables. Now what will happen with these three variables? That means three space is created in the memory, which has got the name as num1, num2 and total. Now let's go here. I want the value of D5 to be stored in my num1. I'll say num1 equals, I'll say WKS data type dot range of D5 dot value. So in this program, I directly took as 200, which is hard-coded value. Now what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to take the value from Excel, that is whatever is there in D5, and I'm putting it in num1. So this is called as assignment operator, where I'll be assigning this value to num1. So always the assignment will happen from right side to left side. So it should not be like left side to right side. So whatever value I have here, that will be assigned to num1. Right. Next, num2 equals WKS data type dot range of, I'll say D6 dot value. Fine. Now I got this num1 and num2. There are two values. Now what I'll do is we need to get the total. I'll say total equals num1 plus num2. So if you see, this is the total, that is D7 dot value. Here I'm saying total. Here I'll say num1 is D5 value, num2 is D6 value. Say total equals num1 plus num2. That means whatever values there num1 and num2 will be added. It will be assigned to total. Now I need to give the output of this. So what I'll do, that is like this. I'll go here and I'll say D7 dot value equals total. See, D7 dot value equals total. Now what we'll do, I'll just delete all this. So here I'll say 10 and I'll say 20. Let me run the program. Say F5. See, I got 30. Now let's go back. I want to do, there are two more codes which I have to write, wherein I'll say F5 and F6 is nothing but D5 divided by D7, D6 divided by D7. So what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll say F5 dot value equals, it is D5 divided by D7. So what is D5 dot value? That is num1. I'll say num1 divided by total. Instead of again saying D5 dot value, I'll say num1 divided by total. The next one, F6. Let me copy this. I'll say F6 equals num2 divided by total. Now if you compare these two programs, see here, this D5, I'm actually taking multiple times. But if you go and check this, see, it says num1, num2. Only once I've taken this D5 dot value and once I've taken this D6 dot value. But if you see here, I'm using this multiple times now. Let me run this F5. I'm getting the result. Fine. Now let's say I have got one more requirement in this code saying that I need to do some calculation, some random calculation like this. That is D6 minus D5 divided by D5. Some random calculation. Make it as percentage. Now I want this calculation to be done. Say D6 minus D5 divided by D5. If you go to this program, if the same code has to be written for this, then I have to go here and mention H5 equals open bracket D6 minus D5 divided by D5. But in this case, what I have to do? It will be very simple. I'll say H5 dot value equals, just say like this, say num2 minus num1 divided by num1. That's all. See, it's very simple like this. Otherwise, I have to go and I have to mention all this, say d5 dot value minus d6 dot value divided by d6 dot value. But in this case, it's not like that. See, I just have to take the variable and then do the calculation. Now, suppose if I run this, see, I'm getting the result. Let me change this to 8 and say 20. Now, if I run this, see, automatically I'll get the result like this. This is how you'll be using your data types. I've just given one small example, that's all. Now we'll see how we can use different data types. But before that, if you guys have any doubts, please ask me so that I can explain this before going to some more programs. If you have any doubts, please ask me.
Sir, Mahesh here.
Now, tell me.
So you have assigned this byte based on the D5, D6.
Yes.
So assuming that is below 255.
Yes.
Now you have written a program and tomorrow you change the data from below 255 to above that. So will still the program will run or how?
No. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you. Now I'm asking. You just asked me doubts about. Any doubts you have on this, how to assign or how to declare something. That I'll tell you how you can decide the data type. That I'll tell you. That next level.
Okay. And this range is one single cell, or you can give a range from D5 to D10 or something like that.
You can give like that.
Range
That's
what?
a different data type.
Okay.
So now what you're trying
Okay.
to learn is what is a data type, what is a
Okay.
variable, how it works. So what are
Okay.
data types you'll be using? That I'll tell you next session.
Okay.
Any others have got doubts?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sir, in currency data type,
Uh-huh.
currency means currency symbol it will store, or how is it, sir?
Usually we don't use currency. It is very similar to your decimal numbers. That's all. But the capacity will be more. That's all. It's not that currency means you'll be using this currency symbol and all. So I'll tell you what the currency means. It is. Let me show you the data type. Here we have this. If you go and check this, let me just zoom this. See the currency, the capacity will vary. Can you see this? Okay, if you see
Yes,
here, okay, it is just that the size, that's all. So don't get confused. Here you see it's 8 bytes. If you can see it's 8 bytes, and here it is say 4 bytes. So it's all about the capacity. That's all. It's not that currency means you can go and take this
which means
currency.
that is also the part of integer. I mean, not decimal numbers, like whole numbers, right?
No, it is decimal only. Can you see this? I can use decimal numbers here.
Oh, okay, fine, sir.
Use
Thanks.
decimal numbers here. Okay, shall we proceed with more examples? Fine.
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. Next is we'll see few problems occurs when I'm actually not deciding the proper data type. So what will happen? So Santosh was asking like what if, or Mahesh was asking that what will happen the data increases. So how will I actually decide it? Say now let's go here and make it as 100, and here I'll say 500. And you guys know that the data type, say byte, can take up to 255 only. But now if you see this, the addition of these two will become 600, and this is 500. Let's go back and I'll try to run this program. I'll say F5. See, it says overflow. Overflow means what's happening? It is going beyond the capacity. I was talking about the example of say 1 liter, 5 liter, or 10 liter. Now, if I say I want to fetch 3 liters, if I pour water in that 1 liter can, that it will overflow actually. So what should I do? I have to think about the next data type. Let's go back to my Excel sheet and understand. First thing is you should understand what kind of data I'm actually working on. Then only you should decide the data type. Let's go back. What I'll do, I'll take the entire program and then I'll paste it. What I'll do is instead of byte, I'll take it as integer. I'm just trying to change as integer. Now let me run this program. See, same program, only thing we changed was the data type. Let me run this. See, now the program ran because this will not exceed 32,000. The previously it was byte, it is 255. Now it is 32,767. Now if this again increases, say for example, I'll make it as 40,000 and here I'll say 50,000. Now if I run this program, see, it says overflow. That means it is going beyond 32,767. Now what should I do in this case? Let me copy this. I just paste it here. I'll say long, and here we'll make it long. Just trying to change this to long. Let me run this. See, now I'm getting the result. Fine. Now we understood about how we can use this byte, say integer, and say long. So whenever you're writing the program, it can be any kind of data. First, you should decide the data. If the data is going beyond 32,000, then blindly take integer. Suppose if the data is not at all going beyond 32,767, then think about integer. If you think that the data is not going beyond 255, then go for byte. So you have to decide. It's all about your thoughts, your data. So it's not that there is compulsory rule that you have to use integer or byte or long or whatever. Again, people will say, sir, why can't I use long directly? Yes, you can use long directly. Let's say I'm working on age, which is just maximum value is 100. Let's take an example like this. Let me go to one sheet. Let's take an example. I'll share this. This is my memory space. Now what actually I need to store? Say age, which actually needs only this much of space. But what I'm trying to do, I'll say instead of giving this as byte, why not I take long, so that in case if I'm using that variable for something else, so I don't have to go and change the value. Now what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll use long, which occupies this much of space. Let's take it as something like this, and this one as this. See, the data what I'm storing, it requires only this much of space, but I've assigned the data type as something like this. Let's take this as byte and this one as long. Now what will happen? This space, what you see, the green area, I cannot use, let's say this as num1. This complete area is num1 and I'm storing only this much of space. So this space, what you see, the green area, that is wasted. I cannot store any other value in that. If you want to store again, let's say I'll go and I'll declare one more variable, say num2. See, here I can store num2. This much of space is wasted. To avoid this, we have to think about the right data type. Suppose if I'm using integer, let's say I want this much of space, so I can utilize only this much of space. Why to waste this much? So I have to always think about what kind of data type I'm working, so that I can utilize my memory space. If I'm not utilizing memory space, what will happen? It will occupy a lot of memory space and your system will get hanged. You can see when you're playing very bigger games, or let's take your mobile only. If you're having so many applications, what will happen? It will occupy complete of your memory space. Suddenly it will get hanged. You will say, okay, let me restart my system, let me reboot my mobile. Why do you do that? Once you do that, all the memory will be cleared, and again you can open your application, you can start working. Same problem here also. That's what I was telling. So if you're actually trying to work on something, make sure that you'll decide this data type properly. Fine. Let's go and see how we can work with text. Let's take one example. Here, we'll take it as country. I'll say India. I want the result here. Say India has done sales of say 90,000. I have given a country name here, and then here I want the statement to be like this. Whatever country I specify, whatever total value I'm getting, so it should say India has done sales of this value, like this. So these two are dynamic value. Next time, suppose if I say 56,000 and if I say 23,000, if I run the program, so whatever country I'm specifying here and whatever value I'm getting here, that should get changed here. So how to do this? Let's go back. That means how to use text in my data type. Let me take the same program. Why I'm not actually again typing the same program is instead of wasting time, we can go ahead. So I'll take this long because we have bigger number there. Here, what I'll do, save this. Now we'll create one more variable for storing this text. So how? I'll say dim and I'll say country as string. See, fine. We'll go here, we'll assign the country equals WKS data type dot range of D3 dot value. That means the value whatever is there in D3, I'll put it in country. Now after all this calculation, what I want to display is in D9, I want India has done the sales of whatever the value I'm getting here. In this case, it's not 90,000, it will add this, and whatever value I'm getting here in D7, I should append here. That means I should get here. So what is D7? D7 is nothing but the total we have already assigned. Now I'll go here, I'll say D9 dot value equals, I'll say country. Country is nothing but the variable here, ampersand, that is I'm trying to concatenate, has done the sales of, say, ampersand, and I'll say total. Just observe this, country is nothing but the value which I'm taking from D3, has done the sales of, this is the hard-coded statement which will not change, and what you see here 90,000 or whatever, that is nothing but the total. Now let me execute this. See, whatever country name I've given, whatever total I'm getting here, that will get updated here. Fine, let me change this USA, and here I'll just try to give some values like this. Now let me execute this. See, USA has done the sales of 909. See, like this. So I can use my variables in however manner I need. Now let's say I want, by using this decimal numbers, let's assume that I want to get this value, that is we'll take something like this, say the total divided by 2, and here we'll make it as a decimal number. See, I want this value to be stored, say 45, so 454.5. if I'm taking this as integer or long, what it will do is it will ignore the decimal part. But if you want decimal, then what I actually have to do is I have to use, say, double or single. Let me copy this. I'm just trying to put it in different programs so that you can know step by step. See, again I'll explain. First we did the hard-coded values, which we are taking the value from Excel sheet by range. Then we converted that into data type, that we used byte, then we used integer, then we used long, then we tried to learn about string. Then now we are trying to see how we can use this decimal numbers. Say dim, and here let's say average AVG sales as double. Now how to get this value? What is the formula here? We'll say D7, that is total, divided by 2. Now let me go here, I'll say H5, that is this one, or let's keep it here like this. We'll have the value in h6, say h6 dot value equals total divided by 2. Now let me run this. Sorry, 5. I'm getting the result here. But what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying directly this calculation. What if I want to take this into one variable and then put that value here? Then what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll take this AVG sales equals total divided by 2. Then we'll take this value and I'll put it here. Let's try this as long first, and then we'll change this to double and see what will happen. See, now this AVG sales is taken as long. Now let's see what will happen. What is the result? It says 454.5. Let me run this and see what is the value I'm getting. See, I'm getting 454. That means the decimal part is ignored. That means when I'm using this long or integer or byte, what will happen is the decimal part is ignored. Suppose if you want to have the decimal part, then I have to give double. Let's say double. Now let's check. Run this. See, now the decimal part is coming. So understand, whenever I need the results to be shown as a whole number, then you can go for byte, integer or long. Suppose if you think that I want a number to be in decimal values, then you can go for double or single. Okay, so this is how you'll be writing the programs. This is how you'll be using your data types. So I'll give you 2 minutes. If you have any doubts, please ask me. Then I'll tell you what are the do's and don'ts of these data types. Any doubts in this? People, can you hear me? Any doubts?
Oh, sir.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No, nothing.
Okay. So you're able to understand what we are trying to do here?
Yeah.
That is, we are trying to take the value, put it into memory. From that memory, we are taking to my program for multiple times of calculations. That's all. For that, you have to understand data type. You have to understand what is variable and which variable I'm actually taking for calculations. That's it. Okay. So if you understand this concept, I'm telling you, you're in the next level of programming. That means you'll be able to understand how to get the data, how to assign data type, how to declare a variable, and then how to fetch value from the memory. That's all. Okay, fine. Next, let's see what is actually the proper way of naming the variables. Let's come back. Can you see this? I've used this num1, num2, total, and here also few things, and again I mentioned it as country, year, and all these things. Coming to this, here I have this num1, and here I have this average sales. Here this is also number, and this average sales is also number. How will I know that whether the given data type is a string, it's an integer, or it is a double, or any other things? For this, what we'll do is we'll see how we can standardize the name of the variables. We saw some principles here in the presentation. That is, a variable must not exceed 255 characters, it should not have space. All these are the rules of the naming of variables. But here, what we'll do is we'll see how more better way of naming the variables. Fine. Let's go here. What I'll do is let me take this and I'll paste it. I was talking about all these variables. What you guys do is have a bit of giving some prefix for every variables. Again, I'm telling you, this will work even without the standardization as well. But it's a good practice. That's all what I'm telling. How to name the variable? We know that we saw a few principles. But what we actually do is, as a programmer, as a professional programmer, try to give some prefix. That's a good habit actually. So I'm using this long, I'll say LNG. That's all. See? Now what will happen is when I'm using this wherever in my program, it is easily recognizable that this is long. Here also I'll say LNG. Then here, this is also LNG. Now when I come to this string, I'll say str. When I say double, I'll say dbl. See, now this is also a number, this is also a number, but I can easily recognize this as dbl, and here it's a lng. If it's an integer, let's go back here somewhere. We have this integer. Yes, say I'll use int. See, but be very careful while naming this. See, I've used this integer. Now if I run this program, the program will not run. Why? Let me run this and I'll show you. See, it says variable not defined. What is this? See, I'll say, okay, that means previously I had this num1, but I've changed this to int num1. So you should be very careful with these things as well. Now let me change this. Int num1. Here I'll say int. Then everywhere I have to change here. So that's why whenever you're writing program, the beginning only have the habit of giving the names like this and then use it. Otherwise, you might end up with something like this. I'll change this. Otherwise, I'll get error. And you guys also will get confused while working on this. T. And I'll say, just copy this and just paste it. Now let me run this. See, still there is one. State. Now run. Yes. See, it got changed. So why I didn't show in the beginning only is first I wanted you guys to understand the variables. That's why I just didn't want to give you in the beginning only. Now we are trying to learn about the standardized way of naming it. See, here also I'll name it as LNG. Now again, now if I run this, it will not run because the variable is not found. I'll not change anything here. I'll just keep it as is, just to show you guys what will happen. To avoid these things. What is the other way of avoiding these things that I'll talk. So we understood about the data types. We understood about how to declare the variables, how to assign the variables, how to do the calculations, and what are the different type of data types as well. And we just now saw the standardization of the naming convention of variables as well. So guys, let's go back to this program. I'll again come back to this program. Let's take this program only. I'll copy this. Let me scroll down. Just paste it. Make it as 7. Some people, what they do is while assigning or say while declaring the variable, they use like this. Just observe. Because all these three are long. Num1, num2, total as long. So these are actually they'll declare so that they can save the number of lines. But keep in mind guys, when I'm actually declaring something like this, num1, num2 are actually not long. They don't have any data type now. If you are actually declaring any variable in the same line, you have to use like this as long. Say as long. Like this. If you have any variable, say country, I can use like this, comma, and I'll put it like this. Some people have the habit of doing like this. I'm not telling this will not work, or I'm not telling that this is wrong, but avoid these kind of declarations. Why? Because here I have only 1, 2, 3, and 4. It is easy to go and recognize. But as and when the program grows, as and when the program becomes very big, I'll tell you, this will become like a paragraph and you will get totally confused. So how to avoid this? What is the best practice? I'm telling you, this way of declaration is the best practice. Why? Because I will know what are the variables I've declared, and every variable are declared in single line. It will be easy for me to recognize. Nothing will happen. Don't think that if I'm using more number of lines, the program will become very big. Don't even bother. Nothing will happen. If you are declaring like this, your memory size will not increase. Nothing will happen. At the most 1 KB or 2 KB, let's say 5 KB will increase. Nothing, no more, no difference will do. But if you are doing like this, if something goes wrong, if you want to check the variables which you have declared, I'll tell you it will be totally messed up and it will be totally confusing to go and check that. So what you have to do, avoid this kind of declaration and try to use this kind of declaration one by one. This is the best practice. But again, I'm telling you, I'm not telling this is wrong or your program will not run. That is left to each individual. But the best practice I'm telling you, because if you go to internet and if you're checking some declarations, say some programs, they would have given like this only. Most of them would have given like this. So I'm not telling this is wrong because they practice like that. But if you give like this, it is easy for me to recognize what all data types I have declared and what is the data type I have assigned for these variables. Fine. This is one thing. Second thing, some people actually, they have like this, the habit of giving variables like this. See, I've used dim, still I've used different lines, but I'm not specifying any data type here. I've not specified anything here, say num1, num2 or total, whatever. Now what will happen? In this case, num1, num2 and this total are actually called as variant. What will happen to this variant? What is this variant? I'll show you again with this example. We took this memory. See, here I specified as integer. Here I specified, let's say this is long and this is long. And here I'm trying to, save some variable with integer. Variant, what will happen is the system will not know how much of space I need to occupy, because variant means I can store any kind of data from byte till a bigger space for your objects. So what it will do is it will go here and it will occupy the maximum space it can, like this. Now imagine I'm storing only age, which I'm using only this much of space. How much of space is getting wasted? You'll see this much of space is getting wasted. So always make the habit of declaring your variable with the specific data type. That is the best practice and a professional programmer's habit. Fine, understood. So avoid the single way of inserting your declaring your variables, and then try to specify the data type. Fine, let's go here. I will not declare anything here. I don't have any declaration here. Let's go on top. I'll remove this. Let's come back to my program. Can you see this? I have directly taken this country, num1, num2, and few other data types wherein I have not declared at all. Directly I'm using this country equals or whatever. Let me execute this. See, it is running. Let me go and copy this and I'll put it here. Now what I'll do, let me just remove few variables. Can you see this? It says lng num1, lng num2, but here I have this num1, or here I've changed this to lng. Let me run this. See, I'm not getting any error. Previously, when I actually was running about one program, it was throwing error saying that the variable is not found. But now in this case, see, I'm trying to run it, is running. I'm getting the result. There is no problem at all. But how to avoid this? See, I told you have to declare a variable so that your memory is actually managed properly. In this case, or in this case, what is happening is num1, num2, country, or any other variable used, they are again variants because you have not declared this num1. You can say, see, I've declared some lng num1. See, this lng num1 is different from this num1. Now, if I run this, see, I have no issues. Everything is working fine. But how to check whether I've declared the variable or not so that I'll manage my memory properly? So for this, we have to use something called as option explicit on top. Option explicit. So what is this option explicit? Option explicit is nothing but it is actually an option which will help me in forcing to declare the variables. It will force me to declare the variables here. See, now I put this option explicit. Now let me go and run this program. Now let me run this program. See, it will not allow. So what it is doing, it's saying this str country is different from this country. It is nothing related with this now. It will not allow at all. Why? Because it is forcing us to declare the variable, so that this will help me in managing the memory properly. People will have confusion that when I'm actually creating a module, they say I don't have this option explicit. Again, I'm repeating, option explicit is actually used to force any variable to be declared in a program, and that is mentioned in this PPT. You can go through that in detail. Option explicit will force any program to declare the variables. Okay, fine. Now, what is explicit? Let's understand this. Let's scroll down. Explicit and implicit. There are two things. If I'm not giving this, if I'm not specifying this, let me scroll down. Now I'll run this. The program is running. These variables, which are not declared, will be decided by the system itself implicitly, that is internally. What it will do is it will directly say, okay, take variant. You take the bigger space and do whatever you want. But that is not my intention. My intention is give a specific range, specific amount of space so that I can manage my memory properly. So for that, what I'll do, I'm using this explicit. Explicit means externally, that is the user, the programmer has to specify what kind of data type I have to mention here. Let's go back to this option explicit. This option explicit is not available unless and until you enable it. Some people will have it by default, some people will not have it. It's not that you have to always type the values. So how can I get it automatically? See, I'll say right click, say insert module, see, automatically I'll get. Some of them will not get that. So how to get that? What I'll do is go to this tools and say options. If I click on this options, I'll get a few options like this. Can you see this? Require variable declaration. This require variable declaration will actually enable this option explicit. Let me disable this and I'll say okay. Now let me create one more module. See, I'll not get that option explicit here. See, module 1 I had this option explicit, module 2 I don't have. Right click, insert module, see, I'll not get that. Let me go to this tools, options, and I'll say require variable declaration. I'll say okay. Now let me create one more module. See, I'll get this option explicit. But guys, this module 2 and module 3 which I created with disabled option, I'll not have that. And don't think that it will come automatically. Now if you want, I have to manually add the options here. Okay, any doubts in this, people? No doubts?
No, sir.
No doubts? Is it going boring? I know this is the understanding class, so you should please understand these concepts, because the coming sessions, whatever is there, the next every sessions you'll have to work on these data types only. Okay, that's why I'm going very slow, so that you guys can understand very clearly about these data types, and then work only on these data types year afterwards. No hard coded, nothing, just taking from the Excel sheet as a range values and then work on that. Okay, if you have any doubts, ask me, no problem. Proceed.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Let me just remove these modules which we created. I don't want these things. Let me save this. Okay, now we saw how to declare the variables. We saw different type of data types, and we also understood how we can declare the variables by using this option explicit and all these things. Some information we got. Whatever variables you have declared here, this one, this is called as procedure level. Procedure level means when I'm actually running this program, the variable what I've declared here, the values will be available in this program until unless I work on this program. Once it is coming out of this program, the values are cleared in the memory. That means it will just clear completely. How to check that? I'll use Control G, which is an immediate window, just to check the values. See, the Control G, it will give me immediate window. It is similar to your Project Explorer and code window. We have immediate window, or you can go to this view and you can check this immediate window. I'll tell you what this immediate window will do is it will just give me the result of a variable. If you want to check what is the value of that variable, I can check immediately. Now let me click my cursor here, and I'll use something called as F8. If I say F5, the program will execute completely. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll try to run the program by using F8. See, F8 means it is called as debugging. Debugging means executing your code one by one. I'm just trying to tell you that tell you this option so that you can see how the variables will get cleared after the end of the program. See, I'll say F8, that means, sorry, it's overflow. I'll take another program which is long. Okay, I'll take this, say F8. See, if I press this, what will happen now? This yellow say highlighter, what it will do, it is in this line. Now if I say F8, that means the value which was there in D5 will get assigned to num1. Now I want to know what is there in num1. See, I'll just move my cursor on num1, I'll get the value here. Now num2, still it is not assigned. If I go here, it says 0. See, still not assigned. I'll say F8. Can you see that? Okay. Now here, put one question mark and say num1, say enter. I'll get the result what is there in num1. Now let me execute the complete program. See, program is done. The program is finished. Now let me go here and check this num1. See, I don't have any value. That means the complete value is cleared. So understand, if I'm actually working on any program and if I'm assigning any value, this variable which has got value will get cleared as soon as it is coming out of the program. These kind of variables what you have declared is called as procedure level or program level or subroutine level. That is, it will be available within the program only. Once it is coming out of the program, finish, over. Fine. What we'll do, we'll write one simple program. Just a simple program, say sub, or instead of that, we'll just take the same program itself quickly. If I don't want to waste time, I'll just copy this and I'll put it here. We'll say scope of variable. Okay, fine. See here, I have all these values. Let me run this. Yes, it is running. So now what I'll do, this num1 and num2, whatever is there, and the total, instead of declaring here, I will declare on top of all the programs here. See, I declared it on top of all the programs just below this option explicit. Now let me go back to this program. Now if I run this, see, it's still running. Now let me write one more program. So sub, say, scope of variable. Now let me just use this message box, msg box, say num1. Then I'll say num2 and we'll say total, just to make you guys understand how these scope of variables, that is the values in a variable. Scope of variable is nothing but the value in a variable, how it will actually retain. Let me close this as well. Let me run this. See, I'm executing this. Now let me run this program. See, 675, 234, 909. That means even after coming out of this program, the value which is there in this variable is still retaining. That means if I'm declaring the variable above all the program, the value will not get cleared even after executing, that is coming out of the program. Let's go here. I'll take one more, or we'll remove this num1 from this variable. I'll just remove this and I'll put this num1 here. Okay, so num1 is actually procedure level, that is program level, but num2 and total is actually the module level. This is called as module level. Let's scroll down. Now let me run this program. I executed this program. Now let me run this program. See, variable not defined. That means this variable is not available within this program. It is not declared. But num2 and this total, this is actually declared outside the program. That means you don't have to again declare in this particular program. See, if I run this 234, 909, but this one is actually a program level variable which will get cleared as soon as it is coming out of the program. That means whatever you declare within the program, this is called as procedure level variable. If I'm declaring in the same module on top of all the programs just below this option explicit, this is called as module level variables. But guys, what you do is you can use either dim, or what you do, use private. This is the best practice. Again, you can use dim, but what will happen is when I say dim, I still get confused whether it is a procedure level or module level. I'm using this private. Now if I go here, it is same, private or dim, anything is fine, but to categorize it, to recognize it easily, make it as private and this one as dim, and I'll execute this and then I will run this. Now see, again num1 is a procedure level. I'll just comment this. See, go here, say num2 and total, this is actually module level. There is one more level. Suppose if you want to use, let's take this program. I will take this program and I'll paste it here. I'll say project level. The value whatever is there, if it is actually a module level, it can be worked within this module only. It cannot be used outside the module. See, procedure level means within the program. Module level means within the module. What if I want to use the same variable in different modules? Let me run this program. I'll try to assign the value. See, I'm assigning this value. Now let me go here and run this program. See, variable not defined. That means this variable is not defined. Now what I'll do, let me go back. I'll say public num1 as long. See, I'm using this as public. Now let me remove this variable from here. Let me run this. I've executed this program. Now let me go to the other module. Now this num1 is actually public. Num2 is module level. Total is a module level. Let me run this. See, variable is not defined. Let me just comment this. Now let me execute this. Can you see this? Num1 is getting executed because it is public. It is project level. But num2 and total is not getting executed because it is module level, which will be available here. But same thing if I run here, this will run because it is module level. But in this case, it will not run because this is used within the module. And I'm trying to use this in another module, which will not get executed. So let me go here and see public is used for global level, or we also call it as public level, that is project level. Private is for module level, and dim is for procedure level. So there are three types of scope of variables. One is procedure, module, and then project. Procedure level means within the program. Module level means within that module. Project level means entire project. And keep in mind, the preference will be first, it will be for procedure level, then module level, and then project level. That means if I'm using here, say dim num1 as say long. Okay, let me execute this. See, I executed. Let me go here. See, first whatever value is there in this, first preference will be given for within the program itself. It will not take this variable now, this one, because here also I have num1 and here also I have num1. The preference is first given to the procedure level, and then the module level, and then for the project level. Okay, any doubts in this, guys?
Sir, can we declare this public and private somewhere in between of the program, or we have to declare it in?
This I specifically told the public and private should be above all the programs, below this option explicit.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, now this public whatever is there, usually I'll tell you what we'll do for this say global level, or say project level variables, we keep a separate module. Okay, this is how we actually have the standard like this. So what we'll do, we'll keep it like this. All the public variables will be in a separate module itself like this. F4, say mod will say project variables. This is a good practice, that's all. What I'm actually telling, all of these things are the good practice. See, I can use that here only. So what will happen if I'm using here? Again, people will get confused whether it is a project level or module level. But if you use something like this, see, all your project level will be somewhere. It's all this public will be added here, and then here I have this module level which will be on top, and procedure level anyways will be inside the program. So if you practice like this, it will become easy for you to become more professional in programming. Otherwise, I've seen people, what they do, they'll put all the variables here only. Then again it will be more confusing. So don't do that. Say if you want to have project level, then put it as a separate module itself and declare everything. Don't write any programs here. And then module level, make sure that everything will be on top. And then if you want the procedure level, put it inside this. Okay, all of you?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll stop the class here.